Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We continue with track and field, but with matters off the track. A new date has been set for the disciplinary hearing of two-time Jamaica 100-meter champion Tyquendo Tracey following a meeting of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association's disciplinary panel and the sprinters' legal team. This happened at the weekend. Tracey will now answer charges of breaching long-established codes and policies on the 25th of June. That's 2 days before the start of the Jamaica Olympic trials, set to be staged on the 27th through to the 30th of June. The 31-year-old Tracey was summoned to a disciplinary hearing by the J3As following his public criticism of Maurice Wilson, the technical leader of the national team, to the World Athletic Championship in Budapest last August. Let's remind you now the charges outlined in the initial letter from the J3As to Tracey, dated the 1st of June 2024. That you failed and or refused to comply with the long-established disciplinary code policy of the J3As at the 2023 World Athletics Championships in Budapest, Hungary, by being rude and disrespectful to Mr. Maurice Wilson at the warm-up track. Charge 2 says that you failed and or refused to comply with the long-established policy code of the J3As and without decorum, to wit, without good taste and decorum. You wrongfully accused Mr. Maurice Wilson of favoritism in his discretion to exclude you from participating in and being a member of the 4x100-meter relay team at the 2023 World Athletic Championship in Budapest, Hungary. Now, if found guilty, Tracey faces a reprimand, fine and or suspension from the local governing body. Today we'll discuss the situation from a legal standpoint with attorney at law Zuri Johnson. Zuri, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Thank you for joining us. Can I start here? The average sports fan believes that this is an unfair development, unfair to Tracey, because these charges date back to August. So it is a little shocking that he is now being asked to face these charges at the 11th hour when he's getting ready to try to make the Jamaica Olympic team. Is it reasonable to think that the J3As is being unfair to Tracey?
So it will depend on how you look at it. Right now, going on, delay is the talk of the day, especially with that matter that's happening where everybody's talking about delay. So this 10 months is quite curious in the least, but what his attorneys or what everybody will look at is not the delay so much, but if the delay is prejudicial. So they would, provide their reason as to why 10 months. So whether it is that they had to have been doing investigations, if their investigations took that long, whatever the factor is, to justify the delay. So without more, it seems lengthy to us, but depends on what's happening in the background. Then if it is that they can explain as to why there is this delay, then it would be dependent on what that explanation is as to the cause. So 10 months does seem long, but if it is that there had to have been investigations, questioning, collection of statements, that kind of thing that goes into the preparation for the hearing, then.
Yeah, most people think that it is a vindictive position that the J3As is taking, and as you said, his attorneys would be looking at the prejudicial aspect of things. But there's an even further delay because the hearing is now for the 25th of June, which is later than they had already announced a couple of weeks ago. What's your take on that?
So I heard one of his attorneys in an interview, and he was saying that they were not yet furnished with the statements. So it goes back to fair hearing. And so Taekwondo must know what the charges are against him. He must know what the evidence is, because that's a part of his right to fair hearing. So he needs to know the material. His attorneys would need time to go over the material. So the fact that there was not yet, I can't speak to the reason there was not disclosure, but the fact that there was not yet disclosure is why there would be this delay, because he would need to know what he's facing in terms of what the statements are, what the evidence is, and also be able to prepare as to how he will, challenge this kind of the evidence that he's facing.
Yeah, gentlemen, I'm actually just getting some news in as you spoke about disclosure just now, that apparently, and I hope I'm saying this right, that disclosure was to be made by close of business today, and that the documents specifically relating to the charge and the statement from Mr. Maurice Wilson was to come from the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, to Tracey's legal team, and to this point, that has not happened. And it was to happen today. Now, given that new development, I'm going to just go straight to it. Is that grounds on which to throw this case out and not even get to the 25th of June?
Well, they can try. They can attempt to. And one of the things that I'd also would look at if I was on his team, or one of the things that I think that they will be questioning, is the charges themselves. Because the charges are not based, as the J3 has admitted, it's not from written codes. It's from unwritten codes. So then I'll definitely be looking at the enforceability of something that's unwritten. So the fact that these charges are from unwritten codes, and we would have to look at what the precedent is. Has this been done before? The fact if J3 has not yet dealt with a manner like this in this kind of way, and now there is no disclosure, well, it certainly doesn't look good. It certainly doesn't go to the point of fair hearing, and so that's grounds for him to try to have it dismissed.
Let me take you back upon the whole idea of disclosure, because if what we are hearing is correct, and that statement from Mr. Wilson, because if that statement from Mr. Wilson does not come forward, is there still a case?
There is no case, because what would he be answering to? There is no evidence. There is nothing put forward that would be there for questioning. There would be nothing before the panel for the panel to adjudicate on. So you can't just bring a charge and then there is no justification for the charge. So the statement is where that justification would come from. The statement is where he would know this is what, because if you look at it, it's very broad, rude and disrespectful. What speaks to rude and disrespectful? What was done that makes it rude and disrespectful? So you would need that to measure to see whether or not there is in fact a case here. And if there's nothing presented, then there's nothing to answer to. And I don't see how you can have this trial or hearing without the evidence.
Yeah, and the fact is that the documents from Maurice Wilson should have come in by close of business today. It's now 5:10.
Yes.
I suspect close of business would typically be 5 o'clock.
Yes.
So we are in a situation now where the J3 is not in possession of important documents.
Well, at least Tracey's legal team is not.
Yeah, but that's because the J3 didn't get it from Maurice Wilson. So they couldn't hand it over.
Well, that's an assumption we have to make, but I guess we'd have to wait on the J3s to see why is it that they were unable to do disclosure, but certainly it does not work for them to have this being dragged out, considering the delay that has already taken place.
Given, in your experience, how often do you see a charge like this where you speak to no written codes, and if you have seen charges like this, how often are these types of charges successful, if any at all?
So honestly, I can't speak to any situation where I've seen the unwritten codes. Well, the only thing that comes close for me, I think, would probably be customary law, but then that's very different because that comes from precedents or what judges have said. So there's something from which you can measure. In this case, there is really nothing to measure from. And also, interestingly, we could look back, if we're talking about precedent, we could look back to 2017 in London,
yes,
where there was I don't remember if persons remember, but the 4x4 female team.
Yes.
There was some disputes and there were team members who, if we're looking at just broadly rude and disrespectful,
yes,
those two team members, it's arguable that they behaved in a rude and disrespectful way, but nothing of this magnitude was done.
Yes.
So the J3 did not take this kind of steps. So that leaves questions as to what's really happening here. Why would you now go? Because at that time, the J3 made a statement that they were going to now put in place a code of conduct that would be signed by the athletes.
Yes.
So we are now in 2024. That has not been done. You know that there's a need for written codes because you have stated it publicly. So why now have a charge that's based on an unwritten code that nobody can really speak to where it's coming from?
Yeah, Zuri, hold it right there. I am told that we now have Sayeed Bernard, who is the attorney representing Mr. Tyquendo Tracey, and he joins us live on the show. Good afternoon, Mr. Bernard. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm doing well. I'm currently off the island, but certainly for my clients' interest and benefit, I had to make the time for this interview.
What can you tell us? What's the latest? We're hearing a lot around disclosure. What can you disclose to us?
Well, I am in no better position to disclose anything, Ricardo. I have no information whatsoever from the J3. I have not received the document as relates to Maurice Wilson's statement that would form the basis of this complaint. Moreover, and it is very important to note, it is the disciplinary committee's purview and wrong, if I might say, that this matter is just coming up now in June, almost 10 months, if not, since August 2023, when this matter was already dealt with. In fact, my client has instructed me and told me that there was in fact a meeting between himself and 4 others, I believe, and this matter was said to have come to an end. Now, almost 10 months, if not 10 months, we're having this discussion. We're seeing charges being brought. And from where? There's no written code. I asked for disclosure of written codes and policies where these charges are grounded. I was told there was none. And I disagree with that. It cannot be a case where we're trying matters and trying our athletes without any such code. It is ridiculous. And then there was an order of the disciplinary panel when we had our meeting that we would have been disclosed with documents pertaining to the facts that they're relying on to bring the charges. Today, I have not been in possession. My office has not been in possession of any single document.
Yeah.
And I've ensured to check with my offices to ensure that no document from the J3A has come to my office unnoticed.
Yes,
At
Sayeed.
5 o'clock this evening, we have not been in receipt of any other document. And this puts us at a further prejudice. And my client is now facing an unfair trial because we, the defense, we're already been given a short time. I've stated to the chairman, let us have this hearing after trials, after the national circuit, after the European circuit, where we can turn our minds fully to this. There's this rush to deal with this matter all of a sudden, 2 days before the trial. And even though we, the defense, we don't want to do anything that is, out of the norm, we're trying our best to put our best defense forward. And we cannot prepare because, again, we were supposed to get disclosure today from the J3. We have not gotten it from the disciplinary committee.
Yeah, Sayeed, at that meeting on Saturday, if you can say, did the disciplinary committee or the chairman say why this has taken all of 10 months?
No. We raised concerns as it relates to how belated this matter is. In fact, we're of the view, the defense team, that this matter should not even have been brought. A meeting was had. A resolution came forward. Yeah. And in fact, I heard other media reports where Mr. Maurice Wilson has said that he has washed his hands clean of this thing. He doesn't like how it is being dealt with. And simply, he just was requesting a meeting to be had and for the matter to be resolved. Here we are, on the cusp of a disciplinary hearing without any documents. And again, we have no reason as to why it took so long, other than to say that it was the disciplinary committee's fault and that they would get us documents today to put us in a position to be ready. We also do not have those documents today.
Sayeed, you just referenced the fact that based on what you're hearing, Maurice Wilson isn't interested in pursuing these charges, and he was the most victimized person in the incident because he was spoken of in a disparaging way by Tyquendo.
Allegedly.
Okay, allegedly. But you just went to a point there where I was about to ask you, because our information is that Maurice Wilson is not interested in taking the matter any further. But this appears to me to almost defeat the J3A's position.
Absolutely. And again, that defeat is evidenced by the fact that up until today, we have no signed statement from Mr. Maurice Wilson. And it will be beyond me to think that these charges were drafted without any written document. been given to the chairman of the disciplinary committee or any other competent authority within the J3 to have these charges drafted.
Yeah, Sayeed, what does it mean now that you haven't gotten disclosure as you were promised when you had the meeting? How do you proceed from here? Are you now asking for these charges to be dropped, or is that now something that's automatic given where we are?
Well, you know, what is natural justice and what should obtain doesn't seem to obtain with the J3A. So the defense team will be meeting and we will be considering our options. But I can tell you from now that we are of the view that there should be no disciplinary hearing. Again, a meeting was already had in Budapest. This matter was already put at a bed. And this is further exacerbated by the fact that we have no statement. Of course, we'll be writing. We will put in things in writing. And I'll, of course, make such disclosure at the necessary point in time to the J3 to indicate how unfair, unjust, and prejudicial this has been, and that given the time span that was already short and further shortened by the J3's own actions, that it is not fair to our client to have to stand such a trial or hearing, especially at this point in time.
Yeah, Sayeed, thank you very much for joining us at short notice. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Very well. Thank you.
All right, yeah, the attorney representing Tyquendo Tracey. Before we go, I want to get one quick word in from Zuri, because Zuri, given everything that we have heard from Sayeed Bernard and we know of this case, and I'm sorry to have to ask this question, but is there room for any type of suit from Mr. Tracey, given the circumstances that we're looking at?
So that would be a question for his attorneys to look at. They'll have to look at how he was prejudiced, the level of prejudice, and look at what his losses are, and if it is that they think that they have a strong enough case to seek some remedy through the courts or any other appeal panel that's available.
What would your recommendation be given the type of information you have?
So, we are not in the... For me, I am more into mediation and settling. And I feel that for the athlete's interest, he has to look at his interest. And I think the J3 needs to look at the sport, because whatever happened in this situation does not only impact Mr. Tracey, but it impacts the other athletes, because a precedent would have been set. So for me, I think parties come together, speak, and have a peaceful resolution.
Peaceful resolution. That sounds like good advice to me. Yeah? Let's take a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone. Thank you very much, Sir Johnson.